I just delivered a 5-star automation project on Upwork when my customer left me this review. I'm going to show you how I did it and what the system does. So straight off the bat, this is what it looks like in Make.com. It looks pretty complicated, but I'll go through this and break down exactly how it works. So the trigger for this is Google Drive. I'll go ahead and show you what this means. So essentially we set up a folder within Google Drive to process the files. So we set up this file called inbox, where my client could drop all the files that he wanted processing within, and then my system would pick this up and identify when there's new files that have been added and go ahead and process them. That's cool, but what does it actually do? So it would take a file like this, and it would he essentially wanted it to extract only 3 fields for every file. So he wanted the barcode, the barcode, and the trade price. However, the names of each header and the fields were different among every file that he dropped in because they were coming from different suppliers. So I had to build a system that's robust enough to handle variation among every file. Also, these files can be pretty large, so there was a lot of downstream logic that needed to be taken into account, because you couldn't just put this into ChatGPT and have it extract everything we wanted. We had to actually build like complex logic in this. So essentially it would come in like this. That's where you drop in the inbox, and he essentially wanted these 3 fields extracted and then put into a clean Google Sheet, 1 per file, which he could then upload into a tool called Analyzer Tools, which I believe calculated the margins if he was going to resell these off Amazon. I think that was the process. Essentially, you may have seen these can be PDFs, Microsoft Excel, or CSV. So obviously each of those require different handling. So the first sort of logic step within my system was this router here, which had a filter. The bottom root saying if the file extension is PDF, then send it this way. The middle root saying if the file extension is CSV, send it this way. And the top root saying if the file extension is XLSX, XLS, XLSM, or XLSB, then it goes to the top root. Obviously that essentially does differentiating. The Microsoft Excel files go to the top, CSV files go to the middle, and PDF files go on the bottom. So on the PDF route here, I had to do some chunking logic. So we called pdf.co, which is a sort of PDF analyzer software you may have used if you ever built automations, to split the PDF. And the way we did this was we used the index. I believe we used just an asterisk, and it will split by, essentially that splits it by the page breaks. So in this example here, it had, I've just closed it. In this example here, it had 4 pages. So essentially that step here is splitting this PDF into 4 different files, essentially. It's essentially chunking logic. The logic here for every single route is we're essentially trying to get these files into ChatGPT with a solid prompt, and it's going to extract just the files we want and disregard everything else. But the main caveat to take into account is the token limit. So you can't just upload any file into ChatGPT, because one, it would take way too long to process in one go, and the input is too large, it would just error it out. So essentially we have to chunk it first, and that's a common theme among all of these branches. We have to chunk the files. So we do this, then we do our API call to pdf.co just to bring the data back into Make, so to speak. So we're using the URL exposed by this module here, and we're doing a GET request, which is essentially bringing the data back. And then I'm uploading this to ChatGPT, and then doing an API call to ChatGPT. This is a post request, so posting in our prompt. As you can see here, this is the prompt we provided, essentially telling it exactly what to do and all the logic included. It looks pretty ugly because it has to be formatted in JSON when you sort of providing an API call to any sort of API service. But yeah, this is essentially providing the prompt and then running on the files we've just uploaded, and then boom. Once that's done, this spits out just the fields we want for every file. We then aggregate this into one long array of rows, and then add this into the clean Google Sheet. The reason we do the aggregation is mainly just operations efficiency within Make. You could do it without the aggregator, but it would take 1 operation per row. So obviously dealing with a file that has 1,000 rows, that's already 1,000 operations just gone of your Make allowance, and obviously they do cost money. So the aggregator essentially puts these into one operation, so you can upload every row just as one operation. So it's just sort of like quality of life update here, using gaming terms in the Make scenario. And then we have some logic here, just moving the cleaned file into the folder, which is cleaned price lists. So that's the final output. The processed original, so the original file I've just shown you gets put in this processed originals. If it fails, then obviously it goes to failed processing. So that's just the logic here. Then we're doing the CSV file route. I essentially built an agent in Pipedream, which will extract the strings from CSV files and then put these back into Make in chunks of 50 rows. I found that just doing that in Pipedream was the easiest way to do it, because you can just make an agent in Pipedream doing whatever you want just by providing it a prompt. And I found that it was, I don't know, doing it in Make was just kind of impossible. So this is what the CSV files look like. They come in looking like this, but the issue was all of them were absolutely massive. So I think this one's like multiple thousands of rows. Obviously handling that can be pretty complex. So the Pipedream agent chunks it and brings it back into Make. And then I do some variables, I isolate the headers, and then essentially just the same logic again, feed this into an OpenAI step to extract just the desired fields. So we have the prompt here. Essentially, I wrote this myself, providing the prompt to the best of my ability that I could. It's probably not optimal, but give it a role, the task, rules. So it kept doing what I didn't want it to do. So I had to say like rules and just be super strict, like, okay, do exactly this. So I gave it rules for the SKU, the barcode, and the cost price, and then also like output as well. And then data, passing in the headers that we isolated earlier from the variable step, and then the actual rows, the actual data here is coming from the iterator, and then essentially similar logic, we aggregate this into one array, pump this into Google Sheets, and then once it's cleaned, we move the file from the inbox into the cleaned price lists file. And then Microsoft Excel was by far the most tricky route to get working. Essentially I have to convert it to a Google Sheet first, just because Microsoft Excel is just impossible to work with in Make. I mean, they do have a native module, but Google Sheets are just far more flexible and allow you to do far more with them. So immediately the first thing I did was convert the file from Microsoft Excel into Google Sheets. Then I got various logic here. Essentially the main logic, what most of these modules are, is chunk logic. So I was identifying how large the file was, so how many rows. Then I set the variable as 80 rows, so each chunk should be set to 80. I was essentially doing maths, so calculating exactly what we needed to be, and then doing formulas within Make and breaking down the entire file into chunks of 80 and calculating how many chunks that would mean. Long story short, we've had chunks of 80 rows into OpenAI within Make.com here. Similar deal, gave it a strong prompt, just like I showed you before. You know, it got the role, task, rules, SKU, barcode requirements, output, all that good stuff. That's essentially the way I write my prompts. It might not be totally optimal, but it does work. And then feeding in the data, which in this case is coming from JSON string, which is module 100. And then essentially this logic here was the sort of complex part. I mean, I'd never used data stores within Make before, so this was new to me, but this is essentially making a new data store, and the key we used here was the sheet ID. So that's like the sheet name within the Excel file. So like sheet 1, sheet 2, or if they have a custom name, this is essentially this here. And then that's essentially keeping it separate, because that's always going to be unique to the sheet. So the first chunk for each new sheet is making a new record, and then every second and like tertiary chunk from that point onwards is updating that record. So we're using the key again of the sheet ID. That way we're updating the record we've just created, but essentially concatenating these chunks together. So instead of them going in one by one, we're essentially merging these back together into one long output. But obviously this time they've actually been cleaned, so it's just going to be the extracted fields that we wanted and not the whole string. And then boom, same logic again. Aggregating this into one long array, putting this into Google Sheets, and then doing the Google Drive sort of, maintenance logic there. And I'll go ahead and show you what this looks like. So this is what they finally look like. I think I showed you Ravensburger. So, extracts the SKU, the barcode, and the GBP price for every row. And then also on delivery, my client wanted some sort of expansion of the scope. So he wanted me to do currency conversion logic. So I also convert the GBP price into USDs, Canadian dollar, euros, and Mexican pesos. And as you can see, this contains the entire file here. So I guess this one was only 290 euros, I suppose. So actually not that unmanageable of a file, but we've turned it from this, which previously was useless to my client. You know, you can't upload a PDF to his tool. And also it has all this junk, all these blue rows, which are essentially just headers, which mean nothing, into something like this, which just has the pure data, the headers which he defined, and then just pure information correctly extracted and processed with the currency conversion included. So yeah, pretty high ROI system.